Hello, and welcome to the Nature Journal Connection. I'm your host, John Muir Laws. Today, we're going to take a look at how to use our favorite nature journaling prompts, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, and use them to observe the world around us more deeply and more carefully, but then to take those three prompts and turn them inward and see how they inspire poetry on the pages of our own nature journal. The process is going to start just with direct observation of the natural world around me. As I explore, I look for a phenomenon that captures my curiosity. Here, walking through the forest on a foggy morning, I found a sprout of a redwood tree that is entirely lacking chlorophyll. This branch of the redwood tree is an albino. So I'm going to start just using my words, pictures, and numbers to describe this strange phenomenon. I may be making maps, I may be making diagrams, little sketches. I'll be using my words, probably measuring things, counting things. And I'm going to get that information as the core of my nature journal page. As I do this, I'll be using my I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of system. I'm going to, for this exercise, pay particular attention to written prompts. So things that I notice, I may make a little diagram of that, but I want to try to get a really rich written list of my I notices, my I wonders, and it reminds me of. Those will be really powerful prompts for me later on when I turn my thoughts to finding the poetry in this moment. Now that I've been observing this redwood for a little while, I'm ready to take this process of I notice, I wonder, and it reminds me of, and turn it from focus on the tree to paying attention to what's going on in here and in here. How does spending time with this tree in the forest make me feel? What does that make me think about? Are there experiences in my life that I can connect to being here with this redwood? Let me give you an example. As I was looking at this, I was thinking to myself, all right, so here are all these branches. There's no chlorophyll. They can't get any energy from the sun. So these branches are completely dependent on sugars that were collected by their brother and sister sprouts that are all around them. They're all connected to the same root base, or from the sugars that are coming down that same tree. So the first idea that I had is like, oh, it's kind of like a parasite, sort of sucking energy away from this whole thing. And then I reframed it in my head, and I thought, no. Think of it this way, that, here is this special, beautiful thing on the side of this tree. And all the rest of the tree is supporting that work and that effort. So this needs the support of all this. And I was thinking about, times and places in my life that other people have come together to support me. And that sort of met this sprout here then it became a metaphor for me for thinking about how we can hold each other up, how we can support each other, how the beautiful and wonderful things that we do, a lot of those are because of the networks of kindness and support that we experience. So do you see how I got that from looking at this tree? I'm just taking the observations that I have of nature and then sort of seeing, like, what does that remind me of when I look inside? And now I'm going to put that down on paper. And a great way to start is just to start with, a little list of, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, but kind of going inward for whatever you're experiencing by the phenomenon in nature. What's going on for you in your head? Get it out of here and onto paper. And then you have all these resources. You have your I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of about the tree. You also have the same for your own internal experience. And then you're going to pick some of those, perhaps slightly reword them, but all the raw materials are there. But you can sometimes slightly reword them. That's what kind of makes it poetry, is just to pay a little bit more attention to how you're going to say something so that you're going to say it in the best way that you can. Poetry doesn't have to rhyme, but it can if you want it to. You can do something called free verse, where you just sort of take your best ideas and you put those together. As you're doing that, if you don't like the way you wrote something, you can cross out a line, rewrite something. So actively edit on the page. Try to make it like this collection of thoughts and ideas that, like, you're saying, like, here are my best thoughts. There are other poetry forms that you can use in your nature journal. One of my favorites is called haiku. And here's the way that it works. It's a very short, simple poetry form. So it's only 3 lines. And instead of paying attention to how things rhyme, you're paying attention to the number of syllables in each of those lines. So 3 lines, the first has 5 syllables, the next line has 7 syllables, and then the last one has 5 again. So it's a 5, 7, 5. And if you're having trouble kind of like, what is a syllable? The way that I do it is I just put my hand underneath my chin, and as I talk, every time my chin hits my hand, that is another syllable. So syllable. My hand got hit 3 times. That was a 3-syllable word. And so you'll find that you can make these kind of quickly, and they're fun. So here I'm next to an albino redwood. So albino redwood. So albino redwood. Maybe the haiku can start albino redwood, and then the next line, it's going to be 7 syllables. So maybe I have something about have you ever tasted the sun? Oh, that was 8, but I like that idea. Have you tasted the sun? Oh, that was 6, right? So you see what I'm doing? As I'm counting those syllables, I'm going to try to make it work into that. So I'm going to I'll play with that and then see what I can get. And you get this short, kind of clear chunk, little nugget of a poem. That's the haiku. Now, if you are out there, you're having like, I can't make this work, right? I can't get the number of syllables to work. Don't get stressed out about that, because there's another poetry form, which I made up, called the maiku. And the maiku is just like a haiku, but it doesn't have to beat out to 575 in the end. Still keep it short, but if you can't kind of make it kind of fit into that structure, just go like, oh, hey, it's a maiku, right? The idea is you just want to get this little nugget of an idea and serve it on a platter to yourself and whoever is reading. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reflect a little bit about this tree. I'm going to do, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, send those thoughts inward, put those thoughts down on paper, and then I'm going to have a bunch of resources. I'm going to write some poems, and I'll share them with you. Now, don't worry about like having to rhyme. You don't have to be profound. Just like with our all our other nature journaling practices, just be playful with it and see what comes down on the paper. And I think you're going to find that it's a lot of fun. Let's see what happens with this tree. All right, let's take a look at how those poems turned out. I wrote 2. The first is a haiku. So sometimes you get the 5-7-5 to work out, sometimes you don't. This time it did. And I was starting off thinking with albino redwood, but then I changed that to ghost in the forest because I like that better than albino redwood. And it beats out to 5 syllables. So, ghost in the forest. You will never taste the sun. How tall will you grow? Something I like about haikus is they're just these little nuggets. And by the way, if you write a haiku and you don't like it, you can just write another one, and another one, and another one. My second one is in no particular form. What I did is I just sort of wrote down ideas that I was connecting with and sort of saw. I didn't quite know where I was going at the start, but I kind of liked where it ended up. Sunlight sugars flow from the canopy, down the dark trunk to feed the white flame at its base. How sweeter it must taste, knowing that it is given with unconditional love. Your roots, my roots, the same. And there's my poem. And you can do this too. What we do is we just start with our observations. I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, we take that process, we then use it just to reflect inside a little bit and see where that takes us. Get all those ideas first down on paper and then reorganize them and see what comes out for you. You can do this as an extension of any nature journaling experience. And I think that you're going to find that it adds an extra level of beauty and depth to your connection to the natural world. And until next time, this is your Nature Journal Connection.
Do do do.